Well, hello, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Married and Bright, the podcast. We are not affiliated or endorsed by Brightline Eating, and all content presented in this podcast represents our personal opinions and does not represent medical, nutritional, or psychological professional advice. It's gonna be a good one.
It really is. What are we talking about?
She doesn't want to talk about what we're talking about. Actually, that's not true. That's not true.
No, it's not true at all.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Is this episode 18?
We're not numbering
this is not
one.
numbering. Okay, sorry. No, it's not.
We're not numbering this one.
Okay.
On the off chance that it doesn't get released when we think it's going to get released.
Right. We don't know when it's going to be released, right?
It may never see the light of day.
No, it's
depending on what. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Married and Bright, the podcast. It's going to be hard for you to remember that we changed the name, but we changed the name, Married and Bright, the podcast. Here we are.
Because we got married.
Because we got married. Should we talk about timeline, sequence of events?
Sure.
This is still pre-wedding. We are in the world that you're listening to this podcast. Whenever this gets released, we will be married, but we are currently still unmarried because our wedding is still 2 weeks away from when we're recording this. So
Right.
we just recorded the episode about being married or getting married and the reasons why we're getting married in December and all that. But anyway, so we're recording another episode tonight because we wanted to talk about
Intimacy.
We're going to talk about intimacy. I think one of the big parts of this discussion is because our bodies have changed so much since our weight loss and transformations that there's a lot of things that go along with that. And, you know, if you are a fan of On the Brightline podcast, Bonnie Robin and I had this discussion too, just talking about intimacy and, you know, talking about sex and what that looked like and things that may change or issues that people may have or, freedoms that people may find, if they go through some kind of huge transformation in their life. And so we thought that as a couple, it would probably be a good thing for us to talk about. We're going to be respectful because my parents do listen to the podcast.
And we're respectful people.
We are. Oh, we're respectful people.
We are. We're respectful people.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead. Kick us off, Patty.
Kicks off, Patty. Intimacy.
No, I mean, seriously, I'm giving her a hard time because it's a hard topic to talk about, but I think the things that we've talked about are how things have changed because of the differences in our body now versus before. And so,
And, I'm sure you're fans of this podcast, but if you're just getting here, we both lost considerable amounts. We both lost a person.
Yeah.
Megan's lost 140 pounds. I've lost about 120 or so pounds. And it's huge transformations. And it's the entirety of our lives. Like I've been severely obese my entire life. And this is the first time I've been in a right-sized body or a bright-sized body. And
same.
yeah, the same with Megan. So it's definitely a new experience to be, and it's I don't even want to say bright-sized body or perfect body. Like our bodies are not perfect. My body's not perfect.
Right.
I don't consider my body perfect. Megan tells me that I'm beautiful all the time, as I tell her that all the time.
Yeah.
But if we're both looking at our own bodies, we see things that are not perfect. And so to view our bodies through our partner's lens, I wish we had that ability.
Yeah.
I think we would be a lot.
You say that a lot.
I do say that a lot.
That you wish that I could see myself the way that you see me. And I feel the same way. I mean, I wish that you could see yourself the way that I see you. So I think it's hard. I think when you've had body image issues, which is funny because I would have said before, and I've said this on the previous podcast, that I previously in my larger body did not like my body in clothes that much, but thought I looked great naked. And now I feel the exact opposite. I feel like I look great in clothes and I'm not as excited about my body naked. And so that I think is the struggle for me, is that I was always very body confident, even when I was bigger. But now I feel like there are just things about my body that if I could change instantly without any pain or surgery or anything like that, I would.
Complications.
Yeah, no complications, but obviously that's not that's not in the cards. That's not the way it works. It doesn't work that way. When you've been, very overweight for your entire life and carried a bunch of extra weight, when you lose a whole person, there's extra skin, there's things that don't go back the way they were. I've also had kids, so I
And there's gravity.
yes, in gravity and all those, but like just it's the ideal. And but I think Bonnie said this on when we had this conversation before, many conversations we had about body image. It's just like, this is natural aging and we should celebrate this and it should be shown more than it is. It's just something that I struggle with. I'm not perfect.
We are not perfect. And I think that's part of the learning process, is how to embrace that. And there are two schools of thought on that. There are the people that have surgery and a lot of surgeries,
Yeah.
multiple surgeries. And that's what I fear, is that if I get one thing fixed, I'll be like, oh, though that looks good, but what about this? And what about that? And so then there's the school of just embrace your body. I mean, I'm a warrior. My body got me to this place, to this family, to this partnership, and I am proud of my body. And I mean, I almost didn't make it.
Yeah.
So that I'm here standing and living and fighting, I'm celebrating my body. And that doesn't mean that it's easy. That doesn't mean that I don't look at it sometimes and go, oh man, how can she love me?
Hmm.
But then there she is.
And I think for me, my struggle is I feel like I carry those scars and that I'll always be the person that lost a bunch of weight.
Mm.
And I just want to be a normal person in a normal sized body. So I think that's, I think, and I have moments where I'm okay. It's not all the time that I struggle with it. And again, like I put on clothes and I'm like, wow, I look great. Like my body looks great. I'm very happy with it. But it's, it's not perfect, which I know no one is perfect and no body is perfect. And there's no such thing as a perfect body, but, yeah.
And I know it's shocking, but I saw a TikTok the other day and they were talking about how when they were younger, that they felt overweight, but then there were people in their lives that had better bodies, smaller bodies.
Right.
And come to find out that none of those people were happy with their bodies at the
Mm-mm.
time. And so then it's just like a kick in the head. Like, well, why was I so dissatisfied with my body when these people who I thought were perfect and just loved every bit of their body didn't like their bodies?
Right.
And so I don't know how this turned into body image and not intimacy, but
Well, but I think that's a huge part of
I think they're
intimacy.
very tied.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of intimacy. So I think that's kind of it's not a stretch, but how we get there is it's that, in order to be intimate, you have to be vulnerable in that way, right? Like you have to be willing to show your body, and have the vulnerability of another person witnessing that. And I think that, if you're not comfortable with the way that you look, it can hinder intimacy. So
Absolutely. And I don't know why this is flashing in my mind, or I'm cataloging it. I don't know what, but when I was intimate in the past, it would usually always be in the dark.
hmm.
And that hasn't been like no,
Yeah,
that's not how we're intimate.
it's very true. It's very true. I don't think that I can't remember. I mean, I don't know that it was every time or all the time or one way or the other, but
Mm,
yeah,
Mine was pretty consistent.
pretty consistently in the dark.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I think that was for my
Comfort.
comfortability. Yeah.
Mm,
Because I wasn't comfortable
with your body.
with my body. I didn't want anyone to see my body. I didn't want to see my body. So I think that took my head out of it. Like I didn't have to worry because it was dark. And I used to live in a cave because I worked graveyard and I needed it dark to sleep. And so when
It wasn't
was
really a
dark in
cave,
my
but
room,
but yes, your apartment was very dark in
Very
California,
dark.
which is funny because it's the sunniest place in the entire universe, and yet it was very dark inside. You had to like go outside if you wanted some of the sun.
yes, I had one plant in the bathroom. That's where one window was not
Blacked out.
blackout curtained. Yeah. So yeah, it was dark
Yeah.
when I wanted it to be dark. And
Mm.
I always wanted it to be dark.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But you don't feel that way now.
No, I don't.
You want to talk about that some more?
I mean, to what level do we want to talk
Oh, no,
about
no, we're not
this?
going to go there.
Yeah. So I think I pretty much
Again, my
laid the
parents
scene.
listen to this.
Yes, but I think that just having that level of comfort with my body, you know, even if it's not perfect, even if I'm not happy with everything I see, like I don't know if that's totally just my body not as it is now, or my feeling of connectedness with you,
Right.
and knowing that, I mean, because we've talked about this, and we feel very connected beyond this realm.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it doesn't matter what my body looks like. You would love me.
Right.
And so I feel that I don't feel the need to hide anything with you.
I think that's the other thing too, is that when it's somebody who's been through like a weight loss journey in the same way that you have, it's the imperfections don't feel as, I don't know,
Imperfect.
imperfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess that's a good way to say it. But I just think about like if I had started a relationship with someone who never had a weight problem, whose body was, you know, right sized or whatever, or maybe not even, you know, maybe they were overweight and I had, you know, and when I talk about imperfections, like I'm talking about like loose skin and, you know, things not being as perky as they once were. But anyway, all that to say, it's like I don't know that I would be as comfortable in my own skin with somebody who hadn't had a lot of the same journey as me and understood what that feels like. So
Mm.
personally,
Interesting.
I think it's true. I don't think, I mean, like, I'm like, oh, I know Patty's not judging me because she understands why my body looks the way it does.
And when I'm looking at your body, I don't even like look at it through that lens. I love your body,
Mm,
and I don't I don't hold any, you know,
judgments.
no judgments,
Mm.
no past lens, none of that. Just
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't think that I do that. I don't do that for you either. So it's interesting why we can't let go of it for
Right. That we
ourselves.
can't do that with ourselves. That we so readily do it with each other.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, I know one of the things that you and I have talked about is doing mirror work, which I still haven't
Yeah,
done.
I've done a
but
little bit. It's very emotional. I cry almost every time.
yeah.
Yeah.
You want to
If you don't
explain
know
what
what
it
mirror,
is?
yeah, if you don't know what mirror work is, it's doing affirmations into the mirror. And what was I doing? I was just saying, I love you. Looking deep in your eye in the mirror. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I'm almost tearing up right now. Like just to have that deep love of self is, you know, it's hard for me. It's easier to love you than it is to love me.
Mm.
I don't know if you feel the same way.
I do. I think that it's easier to look past like things that you view as imperfections and flaws for yourself, where I'm like, that's not even that big of it. Like, why are we worried about that? You know, like I think that's the way that I feel about it. And but then for myself, it's like I
Mm.
can't do that. I
You're
can't.
harder on yourself. We are hard
I'm
on ourselves.
100% harder on myself. And it's not that I don't have self-love because I do. I just I'm also, there's a critic, there's an inner critic in there that says that you put in all this work on your body and you still don't have the perfect the perfect body. I'm never gonna have a perfect body.
What?
I'm never gonna have a perfect body.
Mm. And are you accepting of that fact, or?
I am accepting of that fact. The level of perfection maybe is what I'm not accepting of at this
Mm.
point. Like,
So there are levels of perfection.
I don't know about that.
Mm. Interesting.
How did this turn into a body image
I
discussion?
I asked that question about 10 minutes ago, but you said it. They are
Yeah.
intrinsically tied.
Intrinsically tied. Yeah. I think it's an interesting discussion though to talk about. I think totally getting off the body image part because I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Uncomfortable
So
there?
yeah, I am. I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to
We
talk
might,
about
we
it
might come
anymore.
back to that.
No, we won't. We might. But I think that talking about intimacy and then I think it's and Bonnie Robin and I talked about this before. It's that do things change in relationships, if people undergo like a huge transformation like this, and what kind of change is there? And I think for us, it's like we had already had our transformations when we met one another. So there's no comparison. Like I don't
Mhm.
have a comparison of what it was like before, but I know there are people out there that do. And Bonnie had talked about that with her, with her and her husband and just the differences and how they felt about their body and the freedoms they felt in their body that they just, when they weren't hindered down. I mean, and I guess I can hearken life to that is like, yeah, I do feel freer in my body to not have as much weight to move around and feel like I'm in the way in bed and that sort of thing, and you
Or
and
that
I,
certain parts are in the way.
right. That's what I meant. Like
Yeah.
just, that, if your stomach is too big or, your thighs are too big or whatever the case is, it's just like, I don't have those kinds of feelings anymore about my body. So we were talking about like the airline seats. Like now it's like, oh, I don't care where I sit. It doesn't matter because I can fit anywhere. Like I feel that way, about intimacy. It's like, oh, it doesn't, I can fit.
Mhm.
We're trying to be respectful in this conversation.
Yes, we are. But there's still, I mean, and that's a question, that comes up. I don't want to say often, but am I too heavy? Am I too heavy?
No, that's true. Yeah. I mean, even just like sitting next to her, or like we were laying in bed this afternoon and like your shoulder was on my arm. And she was like, is my shoulder too heavy on you? And I'm like, you're basically leaning up against me. Like you're not too heavy. Like there was nothing about it that was too heavy. Or like, is my leg too heavy? Like laying over yours or, whatever the case might be. It's just like, no,
Mm.
you're not too heavy.
And that's body dysmorphia too,
Sure.
because for many many decades I just was at a bigger body, and so when my body is touching or resting on somebody, I still see myself as that bigger person.
Right. Or like sitting on my lap. Like
Mhm.
that's like we'll do that. Like you'll sit on my lap and you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, am I too heavy?" And I'm just like, "No."
And she'll pick me up.
Right, because I'm like, "You're not too heavy." I weigh more than you do, so
You're taller than me, so
oh, by 2 inches. It's not that big. Actually, 1.5 inches
she
according to
said
the
it.
doctor.
You heard her. She said it.
I don't believe in the doctor's stupid tape measure. Like I think I'm 5'7", so I'm 5'7".
She's 5'7".
I'm 5'7". Oh, okay. Do we have more to say on intimacy? I know it's a hard thing to talk about in generalities, but I think it's important. The self-love aspect of it is really important because I think that it's an important part of our connection too. I guess that's something we can talk about, like from a not BLE perspective, just from a relationship perspective, like intimacy with your partner. You know, I think it's something that it's vital to connection. And
Absolutely.
we haven't gotten to the point in the book yet, but I know Julie Manano talks about it in her book Secure Love, the book that we read every Thursday. She does talk about physical connection being part of your attachment, part of secure attachment.
And
So
that's sexual touch and non-sexual touch. I
absolutely.
think that the intimacy is there in both aspects,
Right.
and it's needed and craved at
Yeah.
times. So
I mean, hugging, I'm sure there's a TikTok out there that talks about like that, what is it, like the 20-second hug or something like
it's
that.
6 second, or is it a
A
6 second
6-second kiss. Yeah. That people who kiss their partner for 6 seconds when they like return home
or leave.
or leave or have like a 20-second hug that it's like it has to do with longevity of life. Like they
Yes.
live longer,
Yes.
um,
Happier in their
happier in their
relationship,
relationship. So
more connected.
just having that intimate connection, physical connection is important. And it's important in our relationship too. And I think we've talked about on the podcast too, is that at one point I struggled because I felt like you trying to get that connection back with us when we were in the middle of a conflict felt, like you were trying to gloss over the conflict. And now realizing like you were just like seeking that connection,
Mhm.
like trying to bridge the distance. So
Yeah. Because it's hard. I need to feel connected to be able to have the conversation. I can't have it in a vacuum.
whereas I want the conflict resolved before I want the connection back.
Right. And
So
we're still, we're still working through that.
sure.
And I appreciate you coming to my side a little bit, and I appreciate, that what you need, and I try to do that, but it's hard.
Yeah. It is something that comes up too, like that we talk about that. Just I don't I don't think that I am as in tune to my need for physical touch as you are. Not that I don't have it. Like I don't think that that's true. I don't
Right.
think that I don't. I think that I do have a need for it. I think I'm not as in tune to the need for it as you are. So,
And why do you think that is?
oh, because it was conditioned out of me in the last relationship.
Mm,
Yep. I just hardened myself to that. Like I just was like, oh, that's not a part of the relationship, and so therefore I don't need it. I think I just convinced myself that that wasn't necessary,
mm.
that physical affection. So yeah, yeah. But that's, I mean, that's learned behavior too. So I can unlearn it, and it's a, it's a
Relearn. You
work.
can relearn
I
it.
can relearn it, and I just think that that's the work that I have to do, is to figure out how. I know, because that's your first thing is to go to physical connection, and it feels like typically like my last,
Mm,
you know, thing that I'm gonna do in a conflict is go to physical connection.
Right.
So,
Interesting.
do you have thoughts?
No, I just wonder if there's a list in there, like you said my first and your last, and I wonder if there's other intermediate steps in there that
For conflict?
yeah.
Well, for me, it's always the first place that I go in conflict is like I want to find a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
I want to beat the dead horse. I want to talk about it till it's resolved.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing I want.
And usually the first thing I do is blame. Like I blame myself and want to take the blame and fix. I want to fix it.
Yeah. And do you think the physical connection, like getting reconnected physically, is a way to fix it?
I feel like however it is fixed, it is done in that physical connection.
Mm.
So, mm, sure.
We have a lot to unpack here, guys.
Yeah. Not sure how we got here from intimacy. Are we
Well,
still
we're
in
still
that?
talking about intimacy. I mean, it's all talking about intimacy. Physical, physical connection in attachment is, it's part of the work, like to figure out how to do that. I mean, and it's funny because I say like, oh, physical connection is the last thing, but it's like, I mean, we're holding hands, guys. Like
And
we're
we are
always,
every
always,
episode,
yeah,
pretty much.
always holding
Yeah.
hands. Like it's not like we're not touching one another. It's not like physical touch isn't important to me. We talked about this on when we talked about love languages. Like physical touch has definitely gone up for me, in a way that I just never thought it was. But it's just like specifically in conflict, like it's the last thing that it's like that's like the bow at the end of
Hmm.
the conflict. It's like, okay, now we can reconnect physically because we've resolved everything emotionally.
Yeah.
And I think and I will say this, intimately, I think that I'm very much an emotional person in intimacy. Like like I have a lot of problem with being in my head, and being able to relax and enjoy myself. And that is just my emotional, self, what's going on in my inner,
Your emotional
my
state.
yeah my
Yeah.
my internal family systems, what's going on in my noggin most of the time, and just being able to quiet that and relax is
Mm.
is sometimes more difficult for me. So I think that tracks
Yes.
with what I just said, that the physical contact, the physicalness is the last thing in the connection for me,
Mm.
or it's lower.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It does.
Do we have anything else to say about
Do we
intimacy?
have anything else?
I'm
That's
asking
it.
you, do you have anything else to say about intimacy?
I just I feel like physical touch for both of us is very important.
Mm.
And it's something that we didn't feel was very important in past relationships in our past lives. And to me, that's significant.
When she says past lives, she means like previous to knowing one another. She doesn't mean like actual past lives.
No, I don't mean past lives. But that's the thing. I feel like this is my third life in this lifetime
Yeah.
because there was the obese me, and then I lost weight and was on my journey, and now this is my third life because starting our life together, I feel like this is really the life I was meant to live.
Mm.
And I think physical touch is a part of that, that I feel like we're touchstones to each other, with each
Mm.
other.
But it's interesting because you have a physical connection, like with your, like when I see you with your mom, like you always like hug and, you know, like that's like physicality is important, is an important part of your relationship.
Yes, yes, we do hug, definitely more than your family does.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in my past relationships, it was never,
It wasn't that way.
yeah, it wasn't. I
Mm.
mean, not that I didn't hug. I mean, I
No, no,
hugged
no,
and
no, I
stuff,
know. But I'm just like when I think about you and your, and even like with your friends, like, and you know, like you're just very
Oh
you're
yeah,
a huggy person.
I am a hugger.
Yeah, which
I am
is
a hugger.
fine. It's totally fine.
It's totally fine.
I'm a hugger too, if I know you.
Okay.
If I don't know you, don't hug.
Yes,
I'm just kidding. I probably will hug you back.
but she'll be like,
Uncomfortable.
why are they
Why
hugging
is
me?
this person touching me?
Well, what was I gonna say?
I don't
This is
know.
what I was gonna say.
Sorry.
Because yes, I am a hugger.
Yeah.
I do enjoy hugging people,
Yeah.
but I never wanted to. I never wanted to touch someone while I was sleeping.
Mm.
Like I didn't want somebody to touch. I
Yeah.
couldn't.
I don't know if
sleep
we
with
said it
somebody
on the
touching me.
podcast or not, but there's her side of the bed and then there's our side of the bed. I don't get a side because it's either she's on her side and I'm on our side, or we're both on our side.
You just said I'm on our side, so you do have it. You're on our side, but it is mostly our side. But I
Most of the time it's both of us on our side. Why we have a queen size bed is beyond me.
we do have a visitor, so
Oh,
yeah, we do need
when
room for the
Malcolm
little one.
when Malcolm comes to
Yeah.
visit, he likes to crawl in bed at the middle of the night.
Yeah. But to be connected all the time. I mean, even when Malcolm's in bed, just our feet are touching, with him between us. So and that's very, I didn't think I could sleep with anyone really ever
In bed.
in bed.
Sleep in a bed with somebody
No,
else.
yeah,
Hmm.
because I felt every movement, and every time I was touched, I would wake up, and now it feels almost like every time we disconnect, that's
Yeah.
when I wake up,
Hmm.
because I need
Because
that
it's cold in the
connection.
Pacific Northwest.
We have a heating pad, and now
We
we
do.
have a blanket on the way.
Yes, I
Is
know.
it coming tomorrow.
Tomorrow. We have a heating blanket coming on the way because our bodies are smaller. We have less insulation. We're cold all the time. And I cannot turn the heat up any more than it's up right now because everyone else in this house would hate us. So anyway.
Anyway,
Yeah,
we're very connected.
we are for sure. And intimacy is a very important part of our relationship. And I think that's something that we'll continue to learn and grow as we walk down this path together. So
Yes.
what?
We're getting married in 2 weeks.
We're already married.
Yes, we're already married.
They
We're
think
married
we're
and
already
bright.
married.
We're excited.
We are very excited.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Hmm.
My wife.
My wife. Yeah, my wife. Say it again.
My wife.
Okay, guys. Welcome,
think we're-
welcome to Intimate Patty and Megan. I
Hmm,
love you.
I love you too.
We're gonna get off here so that you guys cannot have to watch this love bubble. It's probably a little uncomfortable for those watching, and for those listening, they're like, what the heck is going on? So we're just staring lovingly into each other's eyes and grinning. So anyway,
It happens a lot.
it does happen a lot. So that is our talk on intimacy. I hope we were respectful and skirted the, nitty gritty enough, but also just that it's really about how acceptance, self-love, self-acceptance, and how you and your partner can work through that together too. So we're working on it, guys. Okay. That's it. That's all we got.
All right.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
What?
How did that get on body image? That's not what I wanted to talk about.
Well, they're tied.
And that's the show. Thank you for tuning in. If you would like to contact us, you can email us at pattyandmegan@gmail.com or hit us up on any of our socials. Have a beautiful, bright day.